but I was gonna try to get my stool higher than yours so that we would have the same height. Hey, and welcome back to the game room for the 11th day of Christmas. We're gonna be checking out the Hyperkin Captain, and for the first time ever in the game room, I've got a guest with me. It is my brother, Thom.
What's up?
And Thom is with me for a couple of reasons today, mainly because we need to put the Hyperkin Captain through its paces, and also because he is somewhat of a professional speedrunner at Super Mario 64.
Yeah, if you call 450th place professional, then I guess you could say that. Yeah.
At the end of the day, he is far better a gamer than I will ever strive to be, but there was a time when that wasn't true. Hang on. This was a time in our lives when that was not so true. I will absolutely put a photo so that they can see that. That was probably Christmas of 96 or 97.
This has got to be my first time ever playing N64. Which was my first console, by the way. It's not my generation console, but yeah, you got to introduce me to it.
That was probably the first and last time we ever played on a 10 out of 10 N64 stick. And for that reason, we've sort of been on the hunt forever for a controller that can sort of act as a replacement or a player 2 controller, something that you can give to friends when they come over, or can just be a serviceable alternative to your everyday controller that has an average stick. The Hyperkin Captain comes in somewhere right around 30 Canadian dollars. You can find them in a lot of really cool colors, actually, and a lot of cool options, but it's a really well-priced alternative if you are looking for another controller. Okay, let's get right into the review.
Yeah, so the first thing you notice right off the bat is that the buttons are a lot heavier. If you're not super familiar with the Nintendo 64 controllers, you might even think this makes it better quality, but if you're really familiar with them and experienced with playing on these things, it's definitely going to feel a lot different.
We're not really sure either whether this is just a factor of them being really new and maybe it just needs to go through a bit of a breaking in period, so it is possible that if we put it through a lot more hours of gameplay, that those buttons would soften over time.
So the second thing that you definitely will notice is that this is a GameCube style stick. Instead of having the individual grooves and pit style Nintendo 64 controller base, it is a dome shape, so it goes outside of the base instead of inside to it. So the grooves definitely feel a lot smoother, and you're not going to get stopped at each individual next turn.
The main thing we wanted to get to was how does the Hyperkin Captain play?
So with the buttons being heavier and all, your technique is going to be a bit off. Mash is going to be a bit slower. You know, your LBLJs might not be as quick for the first bit. And also I was noticing my dive rolls weren't as consistent as they usually are, because they're usually on point. But you know, this might be something that you get used to over time. I got even used to it after about 20 or 30 minutes, and after a couple months, I'm sure you wouldn't even notice the difference.
Some of the main things that I noticed with it was just the overall feel of the stick. It is that GameCube style stick, and I don't mind that feel. You know, I'm not one of those people who's super interested into the precise movements of a character, and if outside of games like Super Mario 64, on regular things like racers or maybe even fighters, I probably wouldn't have noticed too much of a difference. So for me, it functioned just great.
A lot of speedrunners would completely even reject this idea because they're saying, you know, I can't get into the pits of my original corners. What's the point? But I would say if you've got a 5 out of 10 stick, your dead zone is going to be just as flimsy. So I would say you might even get more precise in certain regions of the overall radius of the stick.
Absolutely. One thing the amateur gamer is probably going to notice right off the bat, too, is cord length. It's actually got about a 3-foot longer cord, so if your console's a little further from you, then you've got that much extra room to kick your feet up and chill on your couch. One option that I do want to bring up really quickly is this OEM controller. This is an original factory controller with a GameCube stick replacement, and quite honestly, I would almost prefer this over the Hyperkin, despite the fact that it does have a longer length cord. This GameCube replacement stick does feel exactly the same as the Hyperkin, but then you still have that original Nintendo controller feel with all the regular button presses and plastic feels. So if you're someone who wants to get into your own controller and replace maybe a super sloppy stick on your own time, this is a really great option for someone who's brave enough to open up their original controller and change the stick out themselves.
Yeah, for me, I don't feel as comfortable opening up the bits and pieces of this stuff. Scott's an expert here. I am definitely not. the Hyperkin is just as good of an option. The feel is a bit off, I will admit it, but I'm not messing with that stuff.
That's a wrap on day 11 of the 12 Days of Christmas. Thanks so much for hanging out with us while we checked out the Hyperkin Captain controller. It was awesome to have brother Thom around for the video too. I appreciate all the likes, comments, subscribes, all that good stuff goes a long way in helping my channel grow. Thanks so much, and I will catch you on the next one.